Hello, welcome to another episode of Flying High with Flutter. I'm your host, allenwyma. Today I'm with Godwin. Is that right? Godwin or Goodwin? Should be Godwin, right?
Godwin.
Okay,
Yeah.
just want to make sure. I'm with Godwin. Godwin Alexander Ekainu. Did I say that right? Ekainu?
Ekainu.
Ekainu. I should have asked you before the show, but I was kind of in a rush to get started. Anyways, he's a freelancer on Codemagic. If you guys may not know what is Codemagic, what I understand is it's basically a really fantastic CI/CD tool for Flutter, but also for React Native, other things like that. Why don't you go ahead and give a quick intro about yourself, Godwin?
Okay. My name is Godwin Alexander Ekainu. I'm a technical writer and software engineer, and I basically do freelance technical writing for Codemagic, and also a Flutter developer at Chidisoft. Yeah.
Oh, so for Codemagic, you only freelance for the technical part, or for something else, or also for other things?
No, just
the writing.
Flutter articles. Yeah, just the writing.
Ah, that's cool.
Yeah.
How did you get this? How did you get this gig? I mean, that's a pretty sweet gig, just to write about Flutter all day.
There's I've actually been writing, but I decided to, there's a list of writing community. So I went through the list and I saw Codemagic, and I was like, come on, since I'm a Flutter developer, it would be really nice to write about Flutter all day. So I decided to check in on their careers page, and I saw an opening for Flutter technical writer and applied, and I got accepted. So yeah.
What was the process like? I'm kind of curious. Actually, let's roll back a little bit too, right? So, how long have you been using Flutter to begin with? Like, how well do you know it? How long have you been using it for?
I started learning Flutter during the lockdown, and that was 2020. So I've been into Flutter for like 2 to 3 years now. So, and the process wasn't so much. The only thing they requested for was for other articles I've written before. I write across different stacks. I write for Vue, write for React. So those were the articles I sent them, and yeah, they said, okay, fine, that they were going to give me a test. They gave me a test to write on a particular article, asked me to build an app and publish it in the Play Store. And yeah, that was the test. Yeah. But I think I wasn't able to publish it to the Play Store, and that was because of how ridiculously high you have to pay to be part of Apple's console. So I told them I wasn't able to pay for that, and they were like, okay, fine, they were going to give me another test, and it was a topic I suggested when I was applying, and they asked me to write about it. So I wrote it, and they were like, well, they liked the article, and then they took me in. Yeah, so that's it.
Okay, that sounds like pretty cool. Are you the only writer for Flutter on Codemagic?
I don't think so. I don't think I'm the only writer, but I don't happen to see others. I've seen many persons writing for Codemagic, so I don't think I'm the only one, because on the blog there are a lot of writers there. So I don't think I'm the only one.
Okay. I mean, how do you come up, like, do they ask you for certain topics, or do you have to come up with the topics by yourself, or is it kind of a mixture of the two?
Yeah, it's a mixture of the two. Yeah. This one, the one you guys happen to see was the one I came up with myself, when they were asking me to suggest a topic I was going to write when I was applying. So yeah, after that, subsequently they gave me topics to write for them. But I could actually also suggest if I'd want to write on the article that I feel is good.
Now, has there been an article where you said, yes, I really want to do this one, and they say, no, that one, we don't like this one? Is there anything like that before, or has it pretty much been most of the things that you suggest they think is okay?
No, I just started with them last month. So I've not really suggested a lot of topics to them. because it seems they really have a lot of topics lined up to write about. So after the first suggestion I made to them, I think that has been the only suggestion I've made so far.
Okay, so the article that we're talking about today is about multiple flavors of Firebase, right, in one project. Isn't that right?
Yeah, multi-flavored authentication.
Why don't we kind of step back a bit, right? I'm a little bit aware about what a flavor is, but can you still help define for the audience what a flavor is? Because they may not be quite aware. And yeah, let's first talk with that. What is a flavor in terms of Flutter?
So when I mean flavors, it more or less goes to talk about just the stages of software, or probably the life cycle of software production. So let's say flavors. I think it's just a word that was just given to it to these different stages of production in software development, where you have the development stage, you have staging, and then you have production. It actually differs for different companies, but Flutter calls it flavors. So yeah, that's just what it is.
Well, I mean, I think, to me, a flavor is actually could be a little bit different too, right? So yeah, there could be more than one different type of flavor, right? It's about configuration of the application in relation, right? Because you can maybe have a flavor for, like you can basically white label an application and have like a flavor for customer A and a flavor for customer B. But I believe your definition of flavor is related to like the type of environment, right? Development, staging, production. I think for me, it's even more vague than that, right? I understand that flavors can also be about like maybe you have one app and you white label it. Customer A was one flavor, customer B could be another flavor. So it's basically a way that you can like configure your application and make an app from that, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But just like you said, development in this development stage. Mostly that will be for the developers, most especially. So flavors are just more like kind of help you produce different apps for testing at different stages.
Okay. Flavors are not necessarily built directly into Flutter itself, that I understand, right? It seems like it's a little bit more setup, right? Because there's different ways to do this, right? Or something like that. It's a little bit confusing.
There's just a whole lot of crazy setup you'd have to do to get Flutter flavors. You'd be messing with a whole lot of file. It's really crazy how we should have to do this many things. And luckily, Firebase, and doing it with the Firebase is even worse, because you would have to set up for Firebase, and you have to set up for the three development environment you want, and then after that struggle, you still have to do the same for your Flutter. It's really, really crazy. But in the long run, Very Good Ventures. I don't know if you've heard of Very Good Ventures before. Have you heard of Very Good Ventures?
Did you ask me if I heard of Very Good Ventures?
Yes, Very Good Ventures.
Yes, I know Very Good Ventures. They actually were previous guests on the show. I believe it was, I can't remember one of the guys' names. I think it was Jose, and I think maybe it's I'm working too much these days. I can't remember so much, but the guy who created Bloc, Felix, and his colleague, I believe, is I forgot his name, but I believe he comes from Spain. Both of them came on the show a couple months ago. Fantastic guests, were great guys. Those two guys actually came from BMW. But yeah, I know Very Good Ventures. They're very, very famous in the Flutter world, I would say.
Yeah, so they created I think a package that could actually help you with those setups, because after doing setup for Android, you have to do the same for iOS. With that package, and that was what I used when I was writing my article. So it makes the whole work really easy, because you have to do a lot of crazy setups. You put your build Gradle file, change a lot of things, and then you have to go to Xcode and make a lot of changes. And if you're not like really used to the stuff, you you could really make a lot of mistakes and probably just get tired of the whole stuff. But very good ventures CLI really makes it easy. Once you run the command, it sets up everything for you and pretty easy. And probably so what you have to now struggle with would have to be on Firebase, maybe.
Yeah, Firebase used to also be a little bit painful, but I think with the CLI and the way they configure stuff now, it's a lot less painful. I mean, that's been my experience recently.
Yeah, it's a little less painful. At least probably the other versions did I think doesn't support Google authentication, because what I used in the article was Google authentication. So because of the no support for Google authentication, I just had to do it manually. Yeah, but it wasn't much of a stress too.
Okay, but your article, so in your article you use very good CLI, and I think one of the reasons that you use it is that, like you said, you can create flavors at the same time, and it does all the difficult work for you, right? You need to go into Xcode and figure that, go into I think it's a bail.gradle or something like that, and configure all this kind of stuff. You can just use the very good CLI. Okay. But you decided to use Bloc, though. Is there a reason why you're using Bloc? Is that actually your favorite method, or is it just because that's what Very Good Ventures uses in their CLI?
The truth is, while I was learning Flutter, I had a lot of issues with state management. Yeah, I tried using Provider, which as of then was actually recommended by Flutter, the Flutter community. They said it was quite easy. I tried using Provider. It wasn't really easy for me. And then I tried, and then after some time, I decided to try Bloc after hearing about Bloc. And it looks like Bloc was like really pretty going easy for me. Bloc and Provider actually have the same kind of architecture, but Bloc was really way easier. So I really like Bloc, and the fact that Very Good Ventures actually uses Bloc. I think it's their default state management. It comes with Very Good CLI. So when you are setting up a Very Good CLI, you would have to use Bloc here.
Yeah, that's true. They're big proponents of Bloc, and I guess it's because they have Felix underneath the hood, or sorry, at the helm, or part of the team at least, right? Okay. Yeah, I never used Very Good CLI, but I've looked at it before, and I'm thinking to use it, and I forgot about it. I haven't had to start up another Flutter app for quite some time. All right. So you use Very Good CLI. You're gonna get the flavors. But I think the tricky part is actually setting up the different environments, right? So you actually have to create 3 different projects within Firebase. Is that right, to make this happen?
Yeah, I did. I had to create 3 different environments. Flavoredbloc for dev, stage, and production. It wasn't really, really difficult. It's just the normal things you have to do to set up your manual Firebase, and that was really it. It wasn't really difficult.
But how do you manage the different configurations, right? Is that because with the flavors you have different main files, I believe?
Yeah, you have different entry files for each of the for each of the flavors. So you have a different main entry file, because when CLI does the configuration for you, you're going to see them all in your lib folder. So there's a whole different main files for each of these projects on Firebase. So when you create them, you have to create it just in line with what CLI has created. The CLI has created. So you'd be able to run each of these environments easily. Yeah.
Okay. So, but because you're using flavors, right, you cannot add runtime changes. You have to only do this basically before you run the app. You have to choose which flavor you want to run, right?
Yes. You would have to choose what flavor you want to run. Like, you can decide to I think it's even possible to run the 3 of them at the same time if your system is capable of doing that. You could have different emulators and run all 3 of these flavors on different emulators if you'd like. It's possible to do that.
We have somebody in the audience who I think calls you their guy, Mizzy Throne. Is this your friend?
Sorry, what's his name?
Mizzy, Mizzy Throne, Throne.
Oh, I'm not familiar with that name actually.
I don't know. He calls you his guy, so maybe he knows you. You're his guy, I guess.
Yeah, perhaps.
Okay, I just wanted to shout out in case you knew the guy. Yeah. Okay. So, all right. Let me think for a second. What I want to say next. Okay. So you got your flavors configured. You got your Firebase configured, and then basically the next step is just run which flavor you want, right, to make this kind of all work.
Yeah.
So then after you get it running, I mean, so the Firebase configuration, how does it know which one to use though? Because like you have to have three different like plist files for iOS and three different other kind of files. I forgot which one. I think it's a JSON file for Android. Like, how does it know which one to choose? And how do you keep them separated? You have to have a different name or something?
So when you are creating the Firebase, first off, you'd actually give them different names, and each of these projects is going to have a different JSON file. Now, but what separates this JSON file from each of them would be the SHA key. There's an SHA key to like separate this thing to them. So to get that SHA key, you just have to run a basic command in your terminal. And after running that command, you get these SHA keys, and then you add them to your JSON files, and then you'll be good to go. So the JSON folders, the JSON files is what like actually differentiates all of them. So yeah, each of the folders where you have where you'd have these flavors you have for staging, development, and production. You're going to put those JSON files in those three separate folders. That's how they're going to be differentiated.
But I mean, the way iOS and stuff like that works is that they're all like separate, right? How do I say this? I mean, what about the naming of the files, right? So if I remember correctly, with iOS and stuff, you have to have the file name exactly, right? Exactly, I forgot what it's, Google info.plist or something like that. There's nothing like that there's no issues with the naming of the files for the different types of flavors?
I don't, there's no issues with the naming of the file. Where they would have to like have different names is when you're creating the project. When you're registering your Flutter project in Firebase, for each of them, you would have to like specify each of the production, like when creating the package name for these different projects. When you're creating a different project, the package names need to have the different stage name. Is it whatever your package name is .dev, package name .staging, and package name .production. So yeah, you really need to have separate names on when you're creating your Flutter project. And then when you get your what they call it, your build.gradle file. I think those stuffs have already been set up by, what they call it, by the very good venture CLI. So you wouldn't really have any issues there, except perhaps you change the name from exactly what they have. Like mine, what I did was, what I gave to my package names, I think on the default ones created by a very good CLI, you'd have, staging, which I think would be spelled fully, perhaps. So you can actually just go to your Gradle file and just make little changes, and that will be fine. But where most changes will be taking place and maybe the file names and all will be in the Flutter project, not basically on your Flutter project.
All right. Now, okay, so after connect everything, and then, I mean, I think everything just works, right? I mean, there's not much special after that, right? I think the hardest part is just getting the flavors going.
Yeah, there's no much doing there. That's just basically it. You wouldn't really have to do so much work, so long as a very good seller does the whole work for you. Yeah, so that's just a bunch of whole thing. When I was writing the article, I just had to show them what files you would be messing around with, so they will get an idea of the kind of setup they would have to do if they were doing it manually. So outside that, that's just basically the whole thing. And when one more thing, when you're creating that, you have to create for both Android and iOS. So for the Google services.json, that has to go into for a separate file. And then when it comes for the iOS, you have to go into Xcode to put in those because for iOS it's called Google services.info.plist. So those files would also you still have to go to Xcode and place them in their own folder. Yeah, but aside that setup, that's just all of it that you need to do, and then everything is up and running. No much work.
Well, of course, you also need to add in your SHA-1 and your SHA-256 keys to set up Google, right?
The SHA-1 keys are going to work for both. You would have to add that for, I think, both of them, I guess. Well, I think you just need that one, and then it generates the Google services, and then you go for Apple, and then you add the same SH key, because I think basically both of them will be the same. There no really changes in the SHA keys. So you just add them, and then these files get generated for you, and then you can place them in your files. The reason why you are adding a SHA key basically is for Google signing to actually work, because without the SHA key, it's not going to work, and Google signing is not going to work because Google signing was what I actually used here. So if you don't have Google signing, if you don't have SH1 keys in your Google services.json, it's not going to work. So that's one of the basic reasons why you should need the SH1 key in your Google services.json files.
What do you think is the most tricky part of getting this kind of working? Is it just setting up the flavors, you think, if you don't use a very good CLI? Or because I know Firebase is also quite a bit of configuration too, right? Is there anything that you think in particular that's very confusing and people need to pay attention to?
Well, nothing really confusing. If you've been using this for a very long time, when I was learning Flutter, I played a lot with Firebase. I played around it a lot, so it wasn't really hard for me to get everything set up. I think navigating Firebase is quite easy. There's no really tricky part to creating this Firebase CLI. You just have to read the hints that they give to you. And what makes Firebase quite easy to me, for every place you go, you'd probably see a docs that you have to read, that will actually give you directions to do whatever you want to do. So, I don't think it's really difficult to go around. Yeah. There's nothing really tricky about it. It's quite straightforward. The only place you probably might have issues, maybe navigating Xcode, because to me, for some reason, Xcode is kind of a little bit complicated if you're not used to that particular environment. Unlike Android Studio, it's quite straightforward. Yeah. So the whole navigation thing in Xcode is just all over. So you just have to be really careful while you're doing that.
Yeah. This is true. I mean, it depends on if you're actually using Firebase. I feel like everybody's using Firebase except for me. I really dislike Firebase. I'm sorry to say that, but I'm not a big fan of what do you call it, document-based, schema-less style of Firebase. But yeah, also I just feel really, I don't know, I'm so used to building my own backends that it's hard for me to get away from that. I love Postgres too much to let go and give it up for this, but I know that it does make it easier if you are using, if you're brand new to Flutter, right, you need to get going. You don't really want to build up a whole backend. It takes a long time to do. So I can understand that side. Just for me, I don't know. I had too many issues in the past with Firebase. I also don't really like making cloud functions and stuff. I feel like, I don't know, I just feel strange about cloud functions. That's me though. So if it works for you, that's fine. Do you know if they're going to be adding in Dart soon? I think I heard some talk about adding in Dart to to this, to like Firebase Cloud Functions?
Not really. I've not heard about that. I've not heard about that yet, actually.
Yeah, I've heard that a couple of times, but I mean, theoretically, you could just use Dart and then just use Dart to JS and convert it over, right? I think to a certain extent.
Yeah, yeah. If they do that, it will be really great. Really great because I've actually looked for projects that has been started up in that, and most of them I find are quite are not really working anymore. I've tried checking a lot of things about projects that were like purely on that, and I've not seen. But if that is possible and it has a Firebase support, that would be really cool, crazy, because it means a lot of persons should be able to do a lot of things with that. That would be really nice.
After looking at your app, right? So what's cool about your blog is that you do show a working example. I think the only thing that would be better for your app is if you can actually put like some kind of visual element on the page to let people know what environment that they're in. So I have a client app that we wrote, and at runtime we actually switch servers between production and staging. So before you even log in, we actually double tap somewhere on the screen. And that's going to bring up a dialog when you says, do you want to go to production or do you want to staging? And then you can switch before you log in. It's pretty cool. And if you go to staging, in the corner will be a little ribbon. You know that debug ribbon you have when you're running debug? Yeah. We actually took that ribbon, we just changed it to say staging on the side. So that way, because what would happen is like, as we're developing for the client, he wants to test it on his device. And we say, okay, change your device to staging. Here's a new build. And then he would forget which environment he's in. And then he's like, okay. And then we would say, okay, this code works in staging, but not in production. He would switch to production and say, it's not working. He sends a screenshot. And then we could say, oh, you see, there's no staging banner. So you're in production. So it made life much easier. So I think if you could add a visual element to the page to show that you're in what flavor you're using, that would help. Other than, I mean, you can see it when the dialog comes up, but before that would be a great thing to have.
Yeah. That would be. I saw ways of doing that. I just didn't add it while I was doing it because I was thinking the image I had, the very good ventures stuff, or just had those ability to while you were trying to log in. If you notice, if you checked the markup, while you're trying to log in with Google Signing, it's going to show you to actually log in into this particular stuff, but you won't be able to choose you. But I would consider adding that to the app to make things easy, like you said. Yeah, that's true. I did see how to do that, but I just didn't add it. Yeah, it makes life pretty easy. That's correct.
That might be nice for a follow-up article. Is that people are. So we have a question in the audience, but to me, it's not so clear about what they want to do. I guess I can call him call this individual Mr. Treasure. I don't know how to say it's OBISKE Treasure. Ask, is it possible to use your method to build the same app with different configuration all at once? I think that answer is yes. It seems like a very vague question, so I asked him for some more information. But judging by the fact that we have a lot of people joining to watch this live stream, actually, compared to normal amount of people that we have, I think this article is quite popular, and I think that you can expand upon flavors more to show people how to use them to their advantage. I think it's a good idea. So maybe if you can show in another article, how to show which flavor you're in, that would be, I think, a really great follow-up article for people.
I think I'll do that and then probably ask the Codemagic team to update it. Yeah, I wasn't really thinking it was going to be this popular because there are other articles that have actually been written on this particular topic, which are on Flutter documentations. I've seen a lot of them. But writing this and a lot of persons saying it's really good and it was quite educative. I wasn't expecting that, but it's cool. So to make it even better for them, so they'll be able to use it to advantage. I'll take your advice and make it a little bit more interactive for them so that they'll be able to use it well to their advantage.
Yeah, I mean, I had a similar situation where I created a video about how to do something with Postgres, and I knew it was going to be useful for people, but I didn't know it was going to be so popular. Like it blew up on Reddit. I was really surprised and happy, obviously, because I got a bunch of followers from it. But in the end, I was very surprised because I knew it would be somewhat interesting, but I didn't know it was going to be that interesting. So for something that maybe you think this article is very simple for you, right? But some things that are very simple for you are difficult for others, or they never think about it. So it's always good to publish your knowledge, right?
Yeah. It's one of the, I think this is the best feeling about writers when you write something and like people are like, wow, this is good and it really helps me. I think there's no other feeling that's like better than that. You write something and people like it and they're like, it makes you want to do more. Yeah, but I mean, it's really nice. It makes me like, come on, I think I can even do more for the community. It's really nice. Yeah.
Have you approached, or no, maybe this is for Codemagic. Oh, okay. I was just thinking, have you talked to very good ventures about your article to see if they also want to post about it? But I think this article is about for Codemagic, so they wouldn't want that to happen. But I do think it's a very good way to do it. Cool. Like I said, do you think you want to expand more on flavors and do more articles about how to use flavors in your Flutter app?
Well, perhaps maybe I should do more. I'm sorry, but are you talking of doing it here? Probably expanding or maybe talking about it more here.
I'm thinking make separate articles, right? Keep it very simple and small. Like what I like about your article too is that it wasn't in depth, but it was in depth enough that people can understand what's going on, and I didn't have to think so much. I could literally copy and paste to match what you wanted, right? That was also good too.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's correct. Yeah. Maybe I'll do something a bit more in depth for this article. So yeah. I think I'll do something like that because it looks like since it's actually looks like people really need this a lot, especially for junior developers. So maybe just landing the job. They would really need this knowledge to like really get started in their job, stuff like that. Because while I was actually writing it, my aim were not for like newbies. It was like targeted towards probably intermediate developers. Yeah, so that was the aim. But maybe I need to break it down more so that even newbies will be able to understand and be able to use it to advantage as well.
I don't know. Newbies may be a little bit hurtful for some people, right? Maybe beginners or something.
Okay, beginners. Yeah, sorry about that.
I don't need to say sorry for me. I'm not the newbie.
Yeah, I was like watching. I was listening to one of your podcasts. I think where you were like really literally talking about how you were in a company where you were asked to build an iOS app and stuff like that. And you were like, it was kind of, I don't know if you said it was kind of difficult, but you tried React Native and it wasn't really going well for you, and then you tried, and then you came along and saw Flutter, really looking quite easy for you. So yeah, I think you said you're already like 16 years in the industry or 10 years or so. So yeah, obviously you're not a newbie. We should call you probably a senior developer.
Yeah. So my background is people come to me with all kinds of crazy stuff, and I have to do all kinds of crazy stuff every single day. So yeah, I wouldn't say I'm a beginner developer, but I would say I'm maybe beginner. No, I wouldn't say beginner. Maybe intermediate to advanced for Flutter. I'm still working my way around it because Flutter's too big, right? I don't want to say I'm an expert. I can't say that because it's just too big. There's too many things to pick up, right?
It's really big. The ecosystem is really big. Aside from the fact that there's development, managing one code base for just Android and iOS. And you have that for Windows, and you also now have that for browser. Like you can actually create websites. It's really big, and then you now have so many tools, like so many widgets at your advantage can actually use to create a particular thing. And it's really quite difficult to get around those widgets. And with the fact that even new ones even keep coming out every day with new releases, it's quite large. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I'm not totally convinced on the web part, but the other platforms I'm pretty convinced about. I need more time. I think web is still not quite there yet in comparison with the others, but
Yeah.
I think the biggest pain I have is that there's no hot code reload for web. So it's hard for me to say, okay, this is good, right? I really would like to have that. To me, without hot code reload, it's not Flutter. I can't say it is. I'm sorry. No matter what you say, it's hard.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, Flutter was not like really built for the web. Though I've actually made an app using the web. I created it was for a client. I and my team, we created a web voting platform for a particular organization. It was one issue I had with Flutter Web is the load time. It takes a lot of time to load. That time when it loads, then after the first load, it becomes fast because it catches in the browser's memory, and then probably subsequently it becomes a little bit fast, but not as fast as you'd use the native languages like probably React or Vue. But yeah, Flutter Web is not like really there yet, but I've experimented with it. I've used it to build an app to production. It's okay, but that loading time to me, it's really awful. I think if probably they'll be able to do something about it, then yeah, I think it to be really nice. You know what I really like about this Flutter Web is the fact that you still have to. It's the same code you like literally have to use on your iOS or probably Android device. That same thing I run on the browser, and man, it's really cool. I don't really need to go learn something else to like really build stuff on the web. It's really nice. It's really nice. Same widgets I could actually use for the real device. The same thing I run on the platform. It's really mind blowing. I don't know how they did it, but it's really crazy. Yeah. Well, to me, I think I would like really give kudos to the Flutter team for that. It's really amazing.
It looks like your guy, Mizzy, came back with a question. This is piggybacking on the question from Mr. Treasure. He asks, if you want to build for different regions and you have different configuration for each region, if it's possible to use the method of, what do you call that, of the flavors to inject those configurations on build.
I don't really get it, but when he's talking about region,
I mean, I think regions could be maybe APAC, like Asia or North America, maybe something like that. Region is hard to say, right? Depends on how you divide up your regions. So basically, it sounds like different, basically split up your app into different types of sections, right? So like I said, maybe if you have one app for Asia, one app for Africa, one app for North America, something like that. Is it possible to use the idea of flavors to do something like that?
Perhaps I do not know because I don't think I've tried something like that. Neither have I seen probably a documentation in respect to that using in different regions. So I mean, it should. I don't know. I've really not seen anything concerning that, but if it's possible, maybe I'll just make a few research, and then maybe write an article about it and publish it. So it to be. Well, that's a very good question, and it's good because I would have to make research on that before I'll be able to like give an answer about that.
Yeah, Mizzy, here's my own take on this: is that I believe it depends on how you do your configuration. I think the point of flavors is all about configuration, right? So if upon build you want to have a different build time configuration, then I think flavors should be a way to go. but it depends on, what you're trying to configure, etc., right? It's really hard to say without having more concrete configuration questions, right? So if each region has a different Firebase configuration, then obviously you can see that this can work. It just depends on what kind of configuration you want to do. And for the regions, right? I mean, if you're uploading the app to the App Store, you have to somehow describe what each app is, which it's been done, right? Sometimes, like for HSBC Bank, I have HSBC Bank. I have to download the HSBC HK Bank app from my phone, and there's also UK, etc. Right? So if that's going to be one way you do it, I think you can do it. Just make sure you make it very clear in your app. That's my input. Cool. And if there's no more questions, I think your article is, again, very clear, very concise, very to the point. I didn't think I had any problems trying to follow it. I was pretty happy with it. And I'm looking forward to see if you can do a whole flavor part. And it seems like you also have some fans. Your guy, Mizzy, and Mr. Treasure are looking forward to the next article about flavors.
Yeah. Since a lot of people are looking forward to that, then I would really have to do that. Yeah.
Okay, then. If nothing else, then I really thank you for your time. And again, thanks for taking the time to come on here. And maybe I'll have you back again soon.